Welcome back to Study on Spotlight, and today we have Helen from Oakham School from the UK. Hello, Helen. Thank you for joining us today. Would you like to introduce yourself and the school, just a quick introduction to our audience?
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Jade, and thank you for the invitation. I really appreciate it. Delighted to be here. My name's Helen Pearce-McNeil. I'm the Director of Admissions and Marketing at Oakham School. I've been working in admissions for about 15 years now. I was previously at Trent College, and now I'm at Oakham School, which is about 2.5 hours north from Heathrow, about 50 minutes north from Cambridge. So in a really beautiful, picturesque location, on the edge of a lovely market town. So a really quintessential English town, a really lovely location. I've been really, really happy to settle in and really found my feet there. I'm really enjoying it. Thank you.
Right. So we know that Oakham School is one of the, not many of the schools in the UK, one of the schools that offer A-level and IB curriculum at the same time. So can you explain why the school decided to do that? And it's quite a history that they offer this both curriculum at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. So A-levels are, as everybody will know, I'm sure, the traditional option for students in Year 12 and Year 13 for most schools and colleges in the UK. And in that scenario, when children decide to study A-levels, they choose 3 or 4 subjects. At Oakham, we decided quite some time ago now to introduce the IB diploma to run alongside the A-level option. We also incidentally offer a couple of BTECs as well. And the reason for that is purely to offer pathways that suit the whole range of students who choose to come and study with us at Oakham, so that we can find an opportunity, find a combination of subjects, a type of study, a style of work that really suits every individual, rather than them having to pick from something that is maybe a little bit more limited or something that is only a small amount of choice. So when anybody applies to Oakham School to come and join us in Year 12, they have those options available to them. So it's either A-levels, it's a combination of A-levels and BTEC, or it's the IB diploma program, and those are the three pathways they can choose between.
Right. So student will obviously they have like different talent, different skills. So how would the student or how would the school advise the student to choose between the curriculum, to choose the best, and what kind of like characteristics that are required or any skills that are required?
Yeah. So I think the first thing I would say is that children and families shouldn't make any presumptions, any assumptions about which option will be the right one for them. So the first and most important thing is for them to try and find the school that's the right fit, the best fit for them. And obviously when they come to Oakham or they introduce to us over a Zoom call or through yourselves here at DADI, the most important thing is that we feel that we are going to be able to offer them the school environment and support them in all ways possible. And they take their entrance assessments in exactly the same way, regardless of the pathway that they're looking to take. So they'll do academic assessments, they'll do English language, and they'll do an interview. As we go through that process and as we get to know them more, we can then have a conversation that helps them decide which pathway to choose. So they don't have to come to us having already decided. They can evolve and discuss. Mrs. Fairley, who is our head of sixth form, head of upper school as we call it at Oakham, is an absolute expert on the pathways that we have. She's a real believer and advocate for the IB programme, but she's a font of knowledge on the A-level and BTEC options as well. And she, along with 1 or 2 other members of staff, will conduct most of the interviews for our Year 12 applicants. And as part of that discussion, they will start to have a conversation about the different options that are available to them. Essentially, A-levels give a student the opportunity to concentrate on fewer subjects in more depth, and the IB programme gives you slightly more subjects and more breadth of study. That's the basic difference between the two, but we can come on to some more of the detail about that if you like.
Okay. So so you mentioned about like students when they apply not necessarily have to make the decision at that time, but some of the international students when they go to study overseas may have like not just the academic challenges but also the English challenges. So how the school, is there any way that you will prepare them or any support that can offer to the students?
Yeah, most certainly. So everybody who comes in and applies for a place at Oakham, whether that's from year 7 all the way up to year 12, will take an English as an additional language assessment. And that's a written assessment as well as the interview piece, so that we get to see their whole range of their skills, from their speaking and conversational skills to writing and reading, of course. And so based on all of that information and getting to know them as an individual, we can then make a determination as to the kind of EAL support that they require. Now, when they're at the older age, at year 12, they are busy, there's a lot to do. And so typically they might have one EAL lesson a week. And I say that also because the demands of the A-level or IB curriculum are such that they need to be pretty well established as an English speaker and an English academic in order to gain a place in our sixth form. It's a challenging academic programme, as you know, Jade. And so they need to be relatively well developed, but there is that EAL lesson available to them, which can be tailored to their individual subjects and their demands. Additionally, for children who maybe didn't take GCSE English, we can offer them IELTS program as well. So if they need IELTS in terms of their aspiration to apply for a UK university, then there is IELTS lessons that help support them. And again, all of that conversation will help inform us as to whether we think the IB or the A-level programme and the particular subjects within those two pathways, we can help advise them. So many of our children will go through the process, they'll have their offer, they'll accept their place, and then they will, after that, have a separate conversation with the sixth form team about the specific subjects that they want to take, whether that's which 3 A-levels work together or which 6 IB subjects will be best for them.
So I know, because I was in the UK as well, making a subject decision was quite challenging as well. So it's good to always have someone to talk, to discuss the option with you, also analyzing which talents or are you good at, or what kind of strengths or weaknesses that we're looking into, and to make that decision. So apart from the ability, the academic ability, what else do you think is very important for students to take along the way when they're doing the academic curriculum?
Yeah, to consider. So I think in all subjects, everybody who joins sixth form in particular has to be prepared for a pretty demanding academic programme. In practical terms, the IB programme covers or takes up more of the timetabled lessons, if you like. So you have fewer private study periods. In addition to your 6 chosen subject lessons, you've got your extended essay, your theory of knowledge, your extra components around service and what have you, and creativity that you have to cover as well. So your time is a bit more scheduled for you. More of your time is more scheduled for you on the IB programme. With the A-level programme, you've got a little bit more independent and private study time, which of course you're expected to use wisely, but students maybe make a little bit more determination as to how they use that time outside of the taught lesson periods. So I suppose that leads me to talk about something such as self-management, which is one of the really key skills that we focus on at Oakham. We're really, really keen that our children learn not only to work within the system that we have at Oakham and the timetabling and obviously the rules of how a school works, but that they actually establish their own sort of ability to manage their own time, to manage their own priorities, to decide if it's time to have some fresh air and relax a little bit, or actually they need to be in the library and studying, revising for a test, whatever those sorts of things might be. So I think every student coming in to start at year 12, that ability to manage their own self is really important. And if they're not quite there when they join us, we absolutely expect that they'll be there by the time they move on to getting into university and such like.
Right. But would you say it was much better if students join a boarding school in a much early age and having that, because during the GCSE or year 10 or lower year, you have much more time to explore your interests as well as developing all these self-management skills. So would you advise if students join a bit earlier and having the chance, let's say, join the Duke of Edinburgh, that kind of cadet, the CCF, cadet force, those kind of extracurricular activities, would it help to develop their personalities and their personal development management skills?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose for a student who moves from particularly a local school environment here in Hong Kong into Oakham School, rather than maybe coming from a private international school environment, there is quite a significant change, as we know from the children who apply to us and who talk about there being a lot more interaction in the British system classrooms, a lot more expectation of engagement and questioning and practical work. All of those sorts of things are absolutely true. It is a different approach to education. That's why we know that so many people apply and want to come to the UK every year, don't we? So it is different. And maybe that can take a little bit of getting used to, depending on the individual student. So for some children who perhaps might take longer to adjust, maybe it is better that they come to the UK a little earlier to sort of ease themselves in, if you like, to that different style of teaching. The other aspect, of course, is that we are sitting, and we will offer huge amounts of support to children choosing their A-levels, choosing their IB subjects. But when we say to them, do you want to study biology, for example, let's pick an A-level or an IB subject, they will be more familiar with what that curriculum entails if they have been in the UK for a couple of years, because they will have studied that as a GCSE subject. And obviously there is a natural move from one to the other, from middle school to upper school. So I would never suggest to anybody that they have to come early. If they choose to come for year 12, that's absolutely the right decision for them, and we can make it work, and we do and have made it work on many, many, many occasions. But if a student is interested in coming earlier and feels that they would like to have a deeper and broader experience of UK education, to have those few extra years to adjust to the style of teaching, the few extra years to get their English to a really seriously good level. Maybe they have EAL support during year 10 and year 11, and by the time they move to sixth form they don't need it anymore, for example. They've established their friendships, they know the teachers. Of course, it will make that transition to year 12 a little bit easier. But I am always an advocate for families and children having to make the decision that works for them themselves. I would never suggest that they must come in, at any particular time. I think it's important that we offer the right thing for the right child at the right time.
It is, especially it's quite a big decision when the family, the child decided to move to one country and to study in another country, especially leaving your family, your parents at an age what sixth form will be 16, still quite young actually, and maybe some children will be the first time leaving their parents for a very long time, being in a boarding environment. So it depends on the students, that you said, that everyone has the best timeline.
I think so. And I think if a family, if a family have visited the UK on holiday, and obviously even better, maybe if they've done a summer school program or something, that will often be the thing that makes the child just feel that little bit more confident. They've done the flight. They know how long it is to get to the UK, as I know myself from many times. They know what the climate is like a little bit. They sort of know what it looks like. We always say, and I know this is a little bit of a tangent, Jade, but I always say it's so valuable for families to visit us before they make the decision on coming to Oakham School. I think it provides huge amounts of reassurance. They can visualise and really understand what their school experience will look like. And then when it comes to that first day of term in September, when they arrive and the parents leave them, for the first time, really, it's not completely unexpected, because they know what they are coming to, and that's really important. So I would always say to families, just take that little bit of time, with your help, of course. I know your colleagues are organising schedules for visits and trying to fit in schools morning and afternoon, etc. But it's so valuable, and we really love meeting people when they choose to come and make those early visits during the year.
Yeah, and it is quite important to do a school tour, especially you can meet the teachers and the students study there and get first-hand feedback from them.
Correct,
and knowing kind of personalities, because different schools that have different community, like bubbly vibe and that kind of thing. So it's quite important to visit. I will agree with you.
It is. And I think, we often say, and I'm sure you'll have heard this before, Jade, that choosing a school is a little bit like buying a house. You have to make sure that certain boxes are ticked, but ultimately it comes down to a feeling. Can you imagine your child at this school? Can your child imagine themselves at this school? Can you imagine you sleeping in this boarding house and going into these classrooms? And we even, sometimes we will find that families will stay and they'll have their interview, they'll do their tests in person here in school as well. And that's even better. An interview in person is so much more comfortable than one over Zoom, of course. So all of those things, we strongly advocate.
Yeah. And especially for some subjects, let's say for art and like design subjects,
Music.
Especially, well, it offers every school, right?
Yeah.
So, so when you can't really visualize what kind of facilities that you're looking for, especially for the art and design subjects. Well, every school offers that. So everyone says that they have the same facility or they have the same support. But how is that really different? There must be some kind of difference between.
Yeah, and again, I think, art, apart from as much as any of the other subject, is quite subjective, isn't it, really? It's very much about if you walk into the art department at Oakham, does this resonate with you? Does the art on the wall, do the people you speak to feel as if they're talking your language? Art is a language all of its own, isn't it? Can you see in that work something that inspires you, something that you recognise? So I think, yes, art possibly, more than any other subject, maybe alongside music, would be even more of a good reason to come and make that visit. We're super lucky at Oakham. We have a really extensive range of facilities. So we have 6 dedicated art studios, specialist tools, resources and such like, but we've also got 2 dedicated exhibition spaces. So it's not just that your artwork is confined to the classroom, but there are regular exhibitions and opportunity to show that.
Open to public. And
so we have some public exhibitions and school and speech days and various opportunities, visiting schools who will come in and see us. So the size of the department for art in particular at Oakham is really impressive. In addition to those, the art studios for sort of painting and such like, we've got a sculpture department as well. So it's sculpture, printmaking, textiles, digital photography. So there's and all of those things can be sort of combined together in the different proportions in the way that works for every individual student, really. I've just flown in today actually to speak to you, Jade, and I've come from Japan. And while I was there, I was sort of looking at some of the alumni in one of our Japanese alumni. So a young lady who left us last year has gone to the University of Edinburgh to study history of art. And she brought all of her Japanese influences into her coursework for A-level, which resulted in her getting 100% in her coursework. She had an outstanding performance. And I think that enrichment is one of the areas where the influence for international students can be really seen, because those cultural influences coming into something that you can really see visually is super exciting. And I think it's exciting for the other students, from around the world, as well as the UK students, as well as the teachers, to learn something. Everybody learns from those different influences that come into school. So the art department alongside the design and technology department, which is just next door, again, really fabulous purpose-built facilities and things. So for those young people who might have creative arts in mind, Oakham is a really premium destination for them, I would suggest.
Right. You just touched on the art and the international influences, and indeed it is quite interesting to be in a school that have an international student community, and especially for art, I think for the Hong Kong student or the Hong Kong family, sometimes underestimate the demand of doing an art subject.
Oh wow, it's a demand. That's right.
Because in Hong Kong, maybe students are kind of really stuck on sketching of the technique side of the art. But in the UK, so often art is not just only on a 2-dimensional drawing or painting, but also involves sculpture, textiles, or in photography, all this kind of different medium that will involve in art. As as well as getting inspiration or all these ideas, and also touch on the history of some culture, like the different countries' background or different techniques, that kind of a history behind it. So it's always, art is not only something you just draw a beautiful picture or something you create very nicely, but also involve a lot of studying, a lot of like influences and all this inspiration behind.
Yes, it is. It's a very, and I think creative subjects, being creative and challenging yourself to think differently and to take lots of influence in order to then produce your own work, those are skills which are transferable into other areas of the curriculum. I spoke to a young man before I came away on this particular trip, and he's doing art along with mathematics. These subjects are not separate to each other. They are all intertwined. His ambition is to move towards architecture further down the line. There are so many things that all these subjects can teach each other, and nobody, it goes back to the beginning of our conversation, Jade, no student should come to us with a absolutely fixed view of what they want to study, because I think they will find, as they find out more about those subjects, that these curriculums overlap and there are benefits to be gained in so many different ways. The creativity that you get from working in the art department, and I should also mention the hours that you spend in the art department to get to that level of amazing production at the end. Then you move to, say, the music department, for example, and the work that goes into producing the sort of exceptional performances that we see from our musicians, the way your brain has to work to be able to learn, to practice, the academic rigor that's required to learn music at that level, again, hugely transferable skills into all other ways. You do generally see a correlation between musicians and those who attain, highly in other academic spheres. So it's, I would say, again, it's a nice part of the British curriculum, really, that those creative subjects are a mainstay of timetabled lessons. It is not just about biology or computer science or geography and maybe traditional academia. Those creative subjects are absolutely part of a holistic set of options that our students will take.
So is it all the students in Oakham like to take at least one instrument or any art subjects?
So they won't necessarily, as they get older, they have more choice, more freedom of choice. So when children join us at year 7, absolutely, yes, they all are involved in art, design and technology, dance, drama. In fact, children in year 7 have a free instrumental lesson every week. So as part of a group, those who are new to music, we offer that as a free lesson to help encourage them into it, perhaps those children who haven't had the opportunity to play an instrument before. So that gives them the chance to learn without too much financial commitment. So there's a free lesson there for those children. And then as they move up through the school and obviously towards GCSEs, then they might decide, well, maybe music's not for me, but I really love my art and design and I'll choose those things for GCSE, but perhaps not this thing over here. So that's the beauty of that. The way that the GCSE curriculum works, of course, is that you can tailor it a little bit to your particular requirements. So obviously English, maths and sciences are the mainstays, but we offer 27 different subjects for GCSE. So if you want to study Latin, you can do. If you want to do computer science, you can do. If you want to do GCSE dance, you can do. There's the whole range from that sort of classical and heritage background, the traditional subjects, to those that are much more contemporary and may suit students who feel a little bit more want to be a bit more innovative and a bit more creative in their subject choices. Right.
Well, so we touch on the academic and also the we're just waiting to study of talking about art and the creativities and innovative. How that influence the academic ability as well. So how the school supports students when it comes to decide their career path? So after all this preparation, building up, leading up to GCSE and then A level. So what after? How was student in Oakham prepare for that?
I think it's important that children are not waiting until the very end of their school education to suddenly think, oh yes, university. Perhaps I should give that some thought. No, the careers programme is informed all the way, realistically, from sort of year 9 onwards. There are...
so just way before GCSE?
Yeah, before GCSE, sort of helping them make informed choices. Because if you are thinking you want to study dentistry or architecture, for example, in the future at university, there are subjects you need to make sure you haven't accidentally left off your list when it was GCSE time. So, and also just thinking about the grades you will need in those GCSE subjects, as well as the grades you will need in your IB or A-level subjects. For those very competitive universities on very competitive courses, they will look back at the whole range of your academic outcomes, and so it's important that you are aware of that and you're doing your very best from quite an early stage. And so with that in mind, our careers department will support those academic choices, personalised sessions, guidance, workshops and things. They will do one-to-one sessions with our careers team, and we've got a number of people in our careers team, so a dedicated department as part of our library, led by a lady called Dr. Pearson, who's a qualified careers advisor, and in-house specialists for UCAS applications, work experience, apprenticeships, those who are focused on what it's like to apply for Oxbridge, which as we know is a little bit of a different pathway, different set of applications, as well as clinical applications, again, dentistry, medicine, etc. They have their own particular application process. So it's important that the children know from the early stages the sorts of things that will be asked of them later down the line. You don't want a child in year 12 looking back and thinking, I wish I'd done that at GCSE, because it's too late. So we're starting to talk to them at all throughout their middle school and upper school careers, really. It's also important that university or apprenticeship or overseas voluntary work, whatever they want to do, that acts as a little bit of a goal and a motivation for them. So again, recently I was talking to a recent alumni, and he didn't quite get the grades he wanted at A-level and has decided to take a year out, reapply the following year, having retaken a couple of his A-levels. And I asked him, well, do you think you're likely to get much better grades? Why would you do better the second time around? He said, well, I shall work for it this time because I know what I want to do. And the reality was, to be entirely honest, he'd passed his A-levels, he'd done fine, but he hadn't done exceptionally well. That's what he needed to get into the high tariff universities. Now, because his predictor grades are better, he is, he's aiming for he wants to go to King's College London, and he's got goals. And I think that's really important, having a purpose, a drive, an aspiration. That does help keep you motivated. It's also really important, I think, for students that they have their own intrinsic motivation. It's not about teachers saying, I think you could do this, or parents saying you should work harder. The children themselves need to have and find that own motivation within themselves, because when the going gets tough and when the examination hall is 2 or 3 hours of hard work, of pen to paper, they're the only ones who can actually make that come true for themselves. And those, again, it goes back to skills, the kinds of things that will help them become or achieve their own goals, become the person they want to be, get to the university or the job that they want further down the line. So there's a lot of support that goes on to help them with that. Choosing the right university, the right course that's a good fit for them, similarly to how children have chosen a good school in the first place. Doing good work experience placements, and having that sort of CV built up of what you've been doing. And not only work experience, but also all the things that we offer in school. So, you know that schools such as Oakham talk a lot about our co-curricular programme, but all of those sorts of experience in things such as Model United Nations or Duke of Edinburgh scheme or going on an overseas expedition, actually all of that will wrap into your career, your university application as well. where did you try and test yourself beyond the curriculum? Where did you stretch yourself? How did you make links across your subjects? All of that will be super important. And so having the children accumulate experiences and bring all of those things together at the crucial moment when it's time to write a personal statement or to have an interview, that's really, really super important. And to wrap all of that up, I suppose we're really pleased because we have a really good number of our children will then receive their or go to their first choice university. 88% or so, is the general average of those children who will be accepted onto their first choice university, and that includes Oxbridge, Russell Group universities, and also children who decide to go overseas maybe and go off to the US and take sports scholarships and all sorts of things. Again, that's super important, that they are going to the place to do the thing that they want to do, that is right for them. It's not about any teacher or parent or careers advisor pointing them a certain direction. If they want to go to Cambridge, then there will be hard work to get there and to go down that path. And it's because they want to do it, that they're motivated, they're aspirational and ambitious enough to get there.
Right. I think the whole key point to take away is it is very important when a family planning for these educations, finding the right resources and having the access to the resource to make the most best decision out of the opportunities provided, to be honest.
Correct.
So from regardless of whether joining in year 12 or joining from a younger year, from year 7 or year 9. So it's about having that access, opening the opportunities for the child that are available to make the decision, especially the one that we have not accessed in Hong Kong. Probably.
Exactly. And I think, that's a really important point actually to this piece around careers, because specifically when it comes to university applications for international students, every university likes to do it slightly differently. Quite frustratingly, every university will have different criteria for what makes an international student. Every university will ask for slightly different things in terms of the qualifications and the sort of paperwork, the application forms. So it's, as you say, families need the right information and the right guidance in order to help them navigate the piece that they need to do and to give the support to the children in doing the bit that they need to do. So at Oakham, we have a large number of international students. Currently, we have 34 different countries represented in our boarding population, just shy of 200 international students in school currently. So as you can imagine, we've got huge amounts of experience in helping them navigate this particular system and the variety in that system as well, because it is quite specialist and quite different to the way that a British student will apply to university. So coming back again to one of your earlier points about the families choosing a school and making all of those decisions in the early stages, a school that has experience and good experience with supporting international international children, I should say, international students applying to universities, that's super, super important because it's not straightforward.
And sometimes when I was in school, sometimes kind of mix out, as a student, I kind of confused, I should say, between whether I'm kind of international student or should I go the British style way or which way. But it's kind of like kind of embarrassing position in a way, because I grew up from my secondary education was in the UK, and then sometimes I forgot, I'm an international student. I will just like follow.
Became very English when you were there.
It is, but sometimes that doesn't apply to me. Yes, I'm an international student. That kind of requires a different way, tactical way to deal with it. So it is quite important to have that kind of international population representing in the school and having the experience of school to manage and assist the students to find the right pathways as well.
It's got to be very bespoke, very customized, very personal. I'm really, I think our careers department is excellent and it brings resources from not only the dedicated team, but around the wider staff as well, the specialists who help with the Oxbridge piece, the specialists who help with the medical applications, clinical applications. It's a really powerful team of people who support every child's application.
Right. So before we wrap up, so is there any advice you want to suggest to our audience who are looking to study in the UK or looking for Oakham, interested in Oakham School?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose one thing I said earlier on was absolutely try to visit if you possibly can. So I suppose that comes back to ideally planning ahead, taking your time if you can to consider when the right time for joining school might be for your child, and with enough lead time, giving yourself the opportunity to go and take a look physically at the school. And that's a useful comparison, I suppose, to then not relying on just league tables and charts and statistics of information, because they don't tell the whole story. A little bit like the comparison of buying a house, just because it has the right number of bedrooms and bathrooms doesn't necessarily mean it's the right school for you. In the same way that being 1 hour from London or 2 hours from London doesn't make a school good or bad. They're all very different. They all have their own little quirks and their own personalities. I suppose when you do visit, really importantly, try to make sure that you speak to some of the residential, the pastoral, the house parent staff, housemasters and house mistresses. That might not be the person who is actually your house mistress or housemaster in the end, but you will get a feel for how they work, what kind of relationships do they build with the children that are in their care. For the parents driving away when they drop the children off on the 1st of September, they've got to have 100% confidence in those people to look after their child. So getting a real feeling that you have that confidence, you have that trust is really important. And maybe, Jade, coming back to our earlier point around A-levels, IB, GCSE subject choices, be open-minded. Be open-minded about the opportunities, because the curriculum that your child may be familiar with in Hong Kong might be a little bit more limited than the range of opportunities that will be available when you start to think about a UK school. There will be some subjects that you haven't come across before. There'll be some new things and some different things, and the content might be a little bit different. So be open-minded to trying some different things. That's why your children are coming to the UK, is to have a different kind of education. They will be expected to be more interactive. They will be expected to ask questions. They'll be expected to work independently, to deduce and come up with their own answers rather than be told the correct answer to problems and questions. So be flexible, I suppose, would be a little bit of advice in that regard when it comes to specifically choosing the subjects. The school will guide you and will give you excellent advice based on getting to know your child through the admissions process. That process, the admissions application process, is not just about yes, no on an offer of a place. It's very much about us at Oakham School getting to know your child so that we can then offer you really excellent tailored advice for how they then go and make the most of the opportunity that they will have when they come and join us.
Right. Thank you, Helen. Thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure. Really delighted to talk to you, Jade. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you. So if any one of you are interested in Oakham School, feel free to contact us or feel free to contact Helen. So we will see you on next episode. And thank you. Bye.
Thank you.